So, y'all, we have Elijah Randall. Randall,
Hey,
Mr. Randall.
hey,
Guys, I've known him. Man, dude, we've known each other for a long time. We've worked together for many moons. We know his family. We're family people. Our kids know each other. We do a lot of things together, and we trust each other. Um, a lot of different stuff. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? You're one of our vendors, Fast Track, right?
yep.
So, why don't
hmm
you share a little bit about what you do, and that way we could get going.
Sure, yeah. And just kind of piggybacking off the team element you just were saying, I think it's extremely important for investors as a precursor to even doing their main role, which is analyzing deals, to build their team. So first step, build your team. I mean, look right here, even in the room, you got money, you got insurance, you've got long-term help with your rentals and even availability of product and more product to analyze and even pull off the market with great detail with real estate IQ. And then, part of that team is your contractor. And that's what we do primarily for investors. We're a turnkey general contractor for single family homes, remodels, not new home building, but remodels from small to large. However, we're not the handyman style, so sub $7,000 remodels are typically not us, but something that's around that range and above is definitely us, and we bring value with bringing teams. And the quickness comes from having trained and maintained quality crews and having a very detailed scope of work so that everybody knows that it's all getting done. And from the beginning, if it's on that list, it's not only getting done, but the price of what it's getting done for. We've prided ourselves on that since the beginning, close to 11 years ago, and we've continued to do that through the years. Hundreds of flips a year. We've got probably, I think, 1,700, 1,800. So we grew the company to where now we're doing between 180 and 200 a year for clients, and that's not including standalone roofs or HVAC, which we can do on occupied homes, the HVAC or the roof. But when it comes to our main general contracting, it's only on vacant homes. It's primarily for investors. Now, an interesting fact, a lot of folks nowadays, though, have gotten really keyed into what they want in their home. And so we've had people who've referred us to end users who want to have us rehab the home before they move in. So that has been a more
Nice.
recent phenomenon. And actually had some investors who've sold the home before they finished the work. And we've been able to work with them as they work with their future buyer. This has happened now 4 times in the last 2 months. Never really happened before, because as we're going to talk about more, I'm sure, Gabe, but because the inventory has been slightly low, folks are actually buying sometimes, going around the market, seeing a house being worked on, reaching out to the person who owns it and moving forward, or they're looking at a home that they missed out on because they didn't go over asking maybe on their offer, but they really love the home, and then they get in touch with the person who did the rehab, the investor who did
That's
the
good.
rehab, and they're asking them, hey, could you do this same thing for me in another house in the neighborhood? And now investors are having the ability, if they want, to actually shop around for their buyer, and
Wow,
never really had that.
that's crazy.
It's been around, don't get me wrong, but it's never been this high volume.
Right.
I mean, we're not talking small amount of people doing this. I've heard it 6 times in the last 3 months. 3 of those were actually buyers who bought the house that was living in, but 3 other times where they said, hey, we want you to rehab a home in this area. Could you help us out? And so it's really helpful to an investor to have that kind of flexibility and availability, not just now to the investment market, but making themselves known a little bit more, maybe even when they're selling the home. Something we've even done for a couple people is we've
Wow.
created a before and after booklet of their project, so that they could even use it and leave it around the home while it's being shown. And it helps people to kind of connect with what they're able to do. So it's another way of kind of marketing
Nice.
to those realtor teams. And it's also a way of possibly, if you're into it, getting that future buyer who couldn't buy your house because they didn't maybe offer enough,
Right.
or you closed out right before they got their offer in. So it's been pretty great. Had a lot of connections with folks like that. And to be honest, too, in a sense, they become like an investor because they're looking to have a home. They get a little equity in, and they get exactly what they want, so
Right.
that they have that when they're closing and moving in. it's what they wanted, and possibly they got it at a slight discount as well, because there's less realtor involved if you're the
Right.
seller helping them in the beginning like that.
So let's back up a second, because you said something I didn't know. So you guys, how many, just to kind of let everybody know, how many properties do you estimate you guys have done over the course of like, you've been doing this for a while, man. So how many properties are you guessing?
Yeah, no, I think it's over 1,700 we've finished so far, and
Wow.
that's just coming on, line more and more, obviously, each month.
Right.
But because we have 11 crews that we're working full time, and and based on that too, because some projects are just starting with the permitting phase or beginning phase, and some are just finishing, with the final cleaning and appliances. So we probably got 15 homes we're working on at a time. We've got a really great team, pretty seamless. We've got two estimators that go out and help you with the detail work and the idea generation to help try to hit your budget. And then we have 2 project managers that help you to make sure that you're finishing the jobs. Every single team has a foreman on the team as well. And once they kind of get involved, they're there on your job until it finishes. And then we have the office staff that's able to help you for those standalones I mentioned, as well as the easy interactions of payment and so forth. So it's great. It's great to be on a team like this. And mentioning teams, it's good that everybody here has a great team, even behind their company. I think it's important that people know that there's a strength in, you don't have to know everything to get involved in this industry.
Right. What was I going to say? Yeah, guys, I've used them for roofing. You guys do roofing, and that was actually pretty easy to do. It wasn't that hard to do. We do them on houses and stuff. So you just call them up, they go out there, they do a quote, desktop or whatever, however way you guys
Eagle
do it.
View, yeah.
Is it Eagle View? Yeah. So you guys did Eagle View and then put it out there and put a roof on, and the only difference of doing it yourself or doing it with your own people, like for instance, me and our crews, is you're just scheduling it out differently. If you have Fast Track do it, they just throw it into their schedule, and you're kind of you just kind of go along for the ride. So
well, and the great thing too with us, we've created it as its own side to Fast Track. So Fast Track has its team, and then the roofing company doesn't need a full office staff to be able to make it work, because we already have Fast Track in play. So we're able to charge less than so many other roofing companies. And we cut out the middleman. We don't have the salesperson coming out showing you different colors.
Right.
We're able to just say, hey, what about weatherwood, driftwood, onyx, and 30-year shingle? And we can get you going real quick, get you on the schedule, move forward. Same day typically we get the quote or within 24 hours. So it's been great. I think it's also key because so many folks have noticed that when they're working on these homes, that the roof is iffy, but it's not a guarantee it has to be done. And so it falls into a category, if I may. I have different categories I feel like people need to look at of things buyers may hate, but they don't all show up, in my opinion, in the same strength of other things. So you've got the number one category is something that they're not even going to walk in the house. This is a buyer who saw pictures online they wanted. You got to fix that, whatever it may be. On a high-end home, it could be curb appeal, could be that they can't even see the door because the bushes are blocking it, the house is leaning, something like that. It's easy. Category 2, they're walking the house, but they don't put an offer in. Got to fix those things. It could be like odors, could be bad workmanship, could be mixed match hardware and fixtures, could be based on the price point, different flow of the house. And then you have category 3. This is where it's something they hate, but it's not keeping them from putting in an offer. This could be something like a marginal roof, could be something like a marginal water heater or AC system,
AC unit. Yeah,
stuff like that. It's something that you could. And by the way, it's not like it's harder to do it after they put it under contract,
right?
If they want to negotiate it into the contract, right? And at that point, you're negotiating, so you can sometimes save some money. Or you can say, I'm going to do the roof, but I'm not going to handle your other little nitpicky list, right? It's just another way of
hard negotiating.
And now in current climate, I've seen people say, I'll do the roof for you, but you're going to pay an extra $4,000 for the house. And it's actually been something folks
people are doing it.
Yeah. All right. I'll do that.
Yeah.
We also have a program where you can, as long as it's past the option period and it's within a week of closing, we can schedule the roof that week so you can get the roof paid for out of closing, out of the title company.
Wow, cool.
So you don't have to come out of pocket, out of your money. So that's helpful too, with like out of pocket cash up front for a lot of folks. And that's very helpful. But there's a fourth category, and it tends to be my favorite because it's the things buyers hate, but they don't say anything to the seller about it.
Right.
This is stuff like cracks in the driveway. A lot of times windows can fall in this category. They may hate that they're not brand new, but they may talk to their realtor about it. They may talk to their spouse, but they don't talk to the seller. So just know that when we're walking a property, we also can see things that the buyer may hate, but we try to put them in different categories to make sure that you're always spending money in a way that's going to make you money.
Right.
And if it can be delayed, we'll let you know what our opinion is on that. And you can check your comps and you can check your gut. But one thing to note when you're building your team is, yes, they have a lot of experience in this industry, but they can't change your threshold. It's yours, whether you want it to be or not, what you're comfortable with. And so you are going to come to the table with some preconceived ideas and opinions and thoughts.
Right.
So I recommend to folks to kind of know themselves. If they know that they're going to try to over rehab, for instance, then maybe they need to come with a strong team to help them say, hey, maybe you don't need to do that in this house. If there's somebody though who tends to go a little on the cheap side, maybe they need to have someone speak into their ear. Hey, just so you know, let's talk about what it'll look like when it's done, so that you are very aware. Jeff, my business partner and the project manager team leader, he always gets a different person than I do. When I'm walking a house with somebody, it's all budget. What can we take out? We got to get this thing down. This deal doesn't even work. Okay, whatever, right? You get the budget to where it needs to be. But after that money is spent, deals moving forward, work's getting done speedily, we're moving down the track. What happens is that then they're worried about, is it going to sell? Oh, can I even have a buyer for this thing with what I decided on the budget? So what we try to do is help people kind of get out of their own way, because we know they're going to be two different people, and help explain it. And that's just a good thing, whether you work with Fast Track or a turnkey general contractor or not, just kind of knowing yourself and knowing that market, what could potentially be left alone, like maybe a roof if it's marginal, or AC system, but also knowing what areas might need to be really hit hard. We talk about bathrooms, we talk about kitchens. There are things we're doing now, Gabe, that we never would have done 3 years ago.
All right, wait, hold on a second.
We got to talk about this.
Let's back up a second. Let's back up. All right, so this is where we get into, we got some good topics here, guys, and this is actually what is happening in 2021, right? So you're talking about it now. Okay, guys, so this is where we're segueing, great segue, by the way, into 2021. All right, this is a different market completely, something you're about to hit. All right. So what is happening? Like, what are you saying that, hey, there's stuff that we would never do before?
Well, we never really made the look as complicated. When we would be in a house, we would actually try to neutralize most of it so you didn't alienate a buyer, right? So that's still, for the most part, pretty true. We're not painting every room a different color or anything like that, but we are trying to have some very key highlighted areas, using a lot of contrast now, where before we weren't using as much contrast. There were times, no joke, we would leave, there were not necessarily our suggestion, but some of our clients would leave master closets without shelving in it and just say, hey, you can put your own shelving in it however you want. We don't know if you're going to use California Closets or someone else, just do what you want, or you could ask us to put it in for you, and we'll talk about what the budget would look like. All right. Some of our clients did that. Some of our clients didn't put pulls or knobs on their cabinets. They just thought, hey, we don't know if you want the longer style. We don't know if you want knobs, pulls, whatever. So they would leave it blank. That worked for a time. And I'm not saying that anybody ever had to like that, but it worked for a time.
Right.
Now it's really keying in on making sure that contrast and finish is there. A lot of those fixtures are now being super highlighted. Maybe it's gold, maybe it's black. There's just a very high contrast and highlight now in fixtures. Something that wasn't as highlighted before. Yeah, fixtures, hardware. Also, decorative tile. is becoming a, part of some rooms, having a darker grout in certain areas so that it contrasts a bit more. Very, very popular right now. Doing, some features different on a fireplace instead of just the white mantle. Maybe having like a shiplap look on the back of the fireplace has been done. Maybe having a butcher block style stained mantle, just real clean, instead of what used to be the standard white, almost kind of gaudy mantle system.
Right.
Doing a lot of chimney vent hoods in the kitchen, even doing like tiled walls that are just open shelves in the kitchen. If the kitchen allows for it, just
Right.
having a real key looking area where somebody pops in and pops it down.
Backsplashes, it seems like they're more decorative in some areas. They're not as small as they used to be. Those little
Right.
small pieces. I don't see a lot of the little small stuff anymore. I see either.
Well, even subways are getting longer and bigger.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Things are becoming a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Yep. So some of these things, also having the outside, for instance, some people are actually moving because they stayed in from COVID so much. They're moving from a place that had a small yard to a place that has a little bit bigger yard feature. And so backyard landscaping has actually come into play a little bit more than it used to.
Wow.
Used to just be, maintenance only. And I'm not saying just clean. I'm not saying you can't do that now. It depends on the price point, all right? Because these houses are selling fairly quickly, but in an area where you might have the benefit of having a higher ARV, you might be doing a little bit more just in the back. So people look, hey, that's that area. I've got somebody right now that's looking at completely converting their home around so that it faces their bigger part of their lot. They've got a lot of acreage on one side of their house. And when it was originally built, the backyard, which is only about 10 or 15 feet at the back, is where the back of the house was from the living room.
Wow.
Okay. Well, now they're relocating their kitchen. They're relocating their living room. They're changing it around so that they could have their living room now face, so to speak, the back of it face the biggest part of their acreage. So it just goes right out to where everybody's playing outside. It's a really fun concept that yards are becoming more in, with families being home.
I've noticed that too. Families being home. And the thing is, like, if your neighborhood allows it, just keep in mind that it doesn't take much. Oh, okay. I was about to say the screen just went out. It doesn't take much to go grab, those fireplace rings, a bunch of stone that you grab from Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever they grab them from. Go grab some of those, put those in the backyard, and now you have a fire pit in the backyard.
Yeah.
Just subtle things like that. Definitely those outdoor lighting. You get them all over the place now, and put those up. Just string them around some trees in the backyard. Those things are just crazy. Everyone loves that stuff. That stuff might cost you, maybe 2 strings might cost you like $100 or something like that. It doesn't cost a lot to do. You just run them around, put them in. The inspectors don't really, they don't frown upon having those things plugged in outside. They're all designed for outdoor lighting, right? So it's not that hard to put out there. So I've noticed stuff like that, like multiple houses are just having some type of outdoor feature of some sort. It doesn't have to be really big. And most of the time it's not very expensive. We're not talking about a pool, we're not talking about a big area that you need to put some time into. But what's interesting though, Elijah, that those used to be the things where, you can spend a lot of money in landscaping and not know it, and not know until it's, oh man, I didn't know it was going to cost this much. So looking into some of these properties, if you're looking at flipping a property that just needs a lot of outdoor stuff in the backyard, you might be putting in, some money or some sod or some seeding going on back there. So I don't know about you, but I've seen, including us, we've taken some yards that look rough, and we're like, hey, the moment the yard started, they cut the grass and they clean everything up, they're throwing down seed, right? Instead of throwing down sod, right? So as long as the yard gets watered, and we just came out of a wet season, so that's great, but going into the summer might not work that well, So that's just some of the stuff I'm seeing.
Yeah. And also, if we shift also into offices, it's a great place now to have a sectioned off location for an office.
Right.
We've seen folks with their open floor plans converting, because they opened it enough, converting dining rooms to offices. We have a couple videos on our on our Facebook account at Fast Track Remodeling that kind of shows a few of those things where folks are opening up. If you open it up and have an island from the kitchen, you could just go out now into the main living area as a dining. Then you can go into your dining room as an office. Other times, if there's another space that's kind of, if you open the floor plan just a little bit, that it has just, a 10-foot by 8-foot space or something, you can put a couple barn doors on it, really dress it up. There are some things that you can do. Now, I'm not saying force an office everywhere. It's not.
Right.
But when you're able to
barn door,
right. But there, it's amazing how many places we've been able to find that there's space just simply because people are now interested in it, where before it was always there. We just never really had to think about it.
Right.
And so it's one of the cool things when you're walking a home now, especially with those that may have some experience, that you could see, hey, what if we did that over there? It doesn't cost a lot of money, and it can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Right. Just little edges. And again, these are things that you need to know what your comps are saying, because there is definitely still a market for rehabbing the home, putting it on the market, and it currently selling quickly. We just personally had you said we do personal investments. We had a personal investment in the Cypress area. We thought it would go for $240 when we bought it, and when we finished it, felt stronger in the market. Just a few weeks later, and it was $259. We put it on the market to see what happened. We had 23 showings, I think, in 3 days, and got an over asking.
Nice.
It's those kinds of things. We didn't do a lot. We kept the kitchen because it had granite already, and it had some nice looking tile with the granite squares, something that a lot of folks would have gotten rid of, but just that price point and that area, and it had a decent sized lot. Okay. So that's one way to look at it. So you got to know your comps. But if you're in an area like we had a home we just did, it was I think it's selling for 1.2 million. And they were the ones who did, the barn door office.
Right.
Looks real great. Opened up the kitchen, did an amazing master bathroom. Obviously, this is in the West U area. Have another one that we're working on now in that West U area as well. That isn't having as much of a remodel, but it is doing stuff to the kitchen. It is definitely redoing the master bath. These are things that when you walk in, you do just have to see, what can this house do? What is this going to sell for? And what kind of features am I going to do? And you don't typically go wrong with the bathrooms and the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah. And just making it look really nice. And not just neutral anymore, but having a couple real contrasting maybe areas that will pop, so people get awakened when they walk through the house. And it's, I love this house. I heard a statistic one time, don't know how accurate it is, but they said that the person decides to buy the house within the first 90 seconds that they're in the home.
Totally believe that.
And then you just have to give them no reason basically to back out by the time they finish walking through it. So if you got a 2-story home, maybe you're not doing as much upstairs. Maybe it's just, it's a bedroom here. It's got a fan.
And that's one of the things, like the big difference right now because of COVID is the virtual showings and stuff like that. And it's so tough to do. I mean, I know people are buying houses. I know people that are flipping houses and selling them to virtual showings. But if you're doing housing and it's in a neighborhood that's going to have this is a family neighborhood type deal. It's still one of the things to me. I know that people do it all over the place. We've sold some houses through virtual also. And I still like the idea of someone walking into your property and you just did all this work and you have your crew going over it all, and that they fall in love with the property, because that just means that they want to be there, right? They're willing to negotiate, and they're not going to freak out over something small. And when you do virtual showings, they show up. If they didn't know that it had these other things, or they didn't know that feeling when you walk in the house, it's kind of hard right there, and they could back out of the deal or whatever might happen from there. So that's just some of the things that just gets me. But one of the questions I want to ask you is, what's the big deal from what can you say is a transition point? Maybe it was December, January, that things started just changing and the market just started changing. You're going, okay, the people that we're helping flip for and rent for, they're just asking for something different. Was that like in December? Was that last summer that you started seeing things shift?
I would say right before Christmas, folks were bringing more of their actual design ideas to the table in the walkthrough. And they were doing it because they were seeing a kind of a disparity in homes that were selling that had a little bit more design element than the ones that weren't rehabbed. And anytime that you can maximize that gap, do it, right? Anytime you can. And there are times when you can't. Like I just walked a home with a client, 4,300 square foot home. It's probably like the biggest house in the neighborhood. And there's just, you can't do everything in that house and get the dollars per square foot as high as a 2,400 square foot house. So you got to be careful. But if you are able to say, man, if I do that little extra, not only do I think I can get a little extra now, but I think I can actually command more showings, more attention, over asking, some things. And then if the home looks just a little different than some of the others in the neighborhood, it might be a little easier for that appraiser to go ahead and put those extra dollars on it because they don't have that same thing to compare to. Someone said recently that we've done quite a few for, they said, if I make my home look exactly like everybody else, then I'm going to compete with everyone else. But if I can make it just a little bit nicer or have a little bit extra, then I'm kind of maybe in my own space. I'm not even competing with them. When they go walk my house, they remember it. They're thinking about it. And so where it's not a complete change of tune for us. What we've always said is just make sure that the money you spend makes you money, or at least gets you the attention you need that draws that quickness of sale or higher appraisal, whatever it may be. And so we're able to click in with that now because that's a commitment we have to the investment world is, hey, there's a trend going with this. Let's go ahead and go with it. So there are things that aren't even yet in because we have very detailed estimator, that. Yeah. We walk the house. I haven't even been able to keep up with inputting all of the new products we've been using because we're starting to do some of those different things. And so, where it used to just be, worldly gray or agreeable gray, accessible beige, now we're adding some white and with just a little hint of beige or gray in it. On the paint colors, we're doing, like I said, more contrasting. On the exterior, same thing. We're doing a little bit more on the contrasting. Folks are, and even on the front doors, maybe spending a little bit more on the front door than we used to in some areas. These are just things that when you're walking a home, it's great.
But that's a great question because I've seen these and I don't think people really see the difference of just the power of a front door, right? And I've made the mistake multiple times too, like just because I'm an investor and I think about the dollars and whatnot. But what do you think the difference from, hey, look, we need a front door replaced, the half moon type front door deal that you could get, whatever, compared to maybe something that's a little bit better, maybe a full light door or something like that? Are we talking about $150? Are we talking about $300?
Okay, so I won't just say the door cost. Okay, I'll say like the full turnkey with the Pro Pack, exterior trim, interior trim, installation, everything that we do, right? So that arch window one you're talking about is probably like $390. Okay. Installed, but then you go with the full light or oval 3/4 light, something like that might be $500. Okay. Something nice, but when you're going with like the different style wood door with the five lights, those little rectangles, pretty popular. You can pay in over $1,000 for that door. Oh wow! And you can install. So some of the doors with real nice kits and everything. They're getting close to $2,000. I'm not saying you have to spend that money, but if you find yourself luckily in a deal where your percentage on the return is higher because the ARV is higher, it might be nice to just spend a little bit of that there and get the really nice front look picture. And like you said, with virtual showings, it really does pop. We've always been able to pop with the doors by painting them maybe like a red or a blue or black, something like that. Yeah, than just a standard white, or maybe staining it, a special color. These are things that can be done, and it can definitely dress up a place. Paint goes a long way on a house in general, and a good paint job, just making sure everything's tight. I walked a house the other day. They ended up renting it out because they couldn't sell it, and it just was the workmanship. When I walked in, it was going to be a potential comp to what we were doing. It was hard to even say it was a comp because the workmanship was so bad. The outside paint job wasn't even done. There was just open areas everywhere, even at the entry. So those kinds of things can really set your job apart. And I think it's important to note.
That's really good. Okay, cool. So we're talking about things that pop, guys. And so one of the things he mentions is the front door, deco strips. deco strips in the laundry room. If you have a laundry room, deco strips on the flooring, right? So decos, it's flooring, laundry rooms, different. I'm seeing paisley flooring, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're doing that right now in 2 different homes. We've got a decorative flooring just for the laundry room. We're also seeing some cubbies being built with the butcher block tops, benches, with cubbies underneath. We're seeing some of that even in the master closets. The primary, you've got these cubbies now that can really dress up that closet. So it's not just shelving oriented, but you got just a few extra things that really make people like it. We're doing some walk-in pantry styles now, Gabe, where we've got the front with a cabinet style. You open it up, you walk in, but it looks like a cabinet from the outside. It's kind of nice when you can do something. It's not always possible, but it's nice when you can do something like that. Just drive a little extra.
Right. Yeah, and right now, the way the market is, guys, in the Houston metro area, that driving a little extra, actually, it gets you there. And I like what you said about doing the appraisal, right? And it's like, okay, the big thing now that I'm hearing from everybody is, hey, if you get this price, and we could go into a little bit of that, will this appraise? Right? Well, I'm not really sure that's going to appraise. And I look, leave that up to the appraiser and what's going on. And I like what you said is like, hey, if you have the same house as this one, and you're at, you got 300 and everybody else is at 290, then what are some of the things you could do that the appraisal comes in and goes, okay, I can see in this market, I can see that this house appraises for 300. And most of this stuff, the return on it is ridiculous. You're talking about the tile flooring in the laundry room still has to be done. There still has to be something in the laundry room, right?
You're having a little something extra, right?
And literally you're talking about the tile changes, right?
Chimney vent hood is a nice upgrade.
Right. That's a great upgrade. That you still need a vent hood. Now they do cost a little bit more. And I know you might have to cut out a couple cabinet stuff there, but those are the things that people look at and go, I rather not have the cabinet space. Because to me, I'm looking at it, and those who do have a vent hood, right, and they have a flue going up behind 2 doors, and they want everyone who had that covered in, you couldn't really use that much space anyways in there. I mean, you're not putting a lot of stuff above that microwave or above that vent hood. And so people look at it and they go, oh, what's half a cabinet that I lose for this awesome piece in my kitchen, right? So I see stuff like that.
Another thing, maybe a rain head shower in the shower.
Okay, rain head shower.
A wider niche in your shower.
Okay, cool.
Instead of going standard niche, you go a little wider. It's so refreshing to look at. I know people are looking at it. Wow, that's nice. It
does set it apart.
It doesn't. Okay, you have to get a little custom with it because they don't typically make the full box, readily available like they do the smaller one. But yeah, I mean, you're
cutting into a stud, to make that happen, and you got to go wider. I totally get it. But you're right.
But doing it sets it apart. And then, especially, by the way, if you're having a standard shower that's rectangle, not square, right? If you're doing a square shower, probably not doing that.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
If you're going to go rectangle on that one, you might go vertical with it a little bit. You like that. You go vertical with it a little bit more instead of horizontal.
You gotta go vertical, baby. Guys, this is good. That's a good thing that pops. Windows in bathrooms in the half bath or the secondary bathrooms. Those old, what are they, like 18-inch wide by 2-inch high windows, and they got the whatever foggy frosted glass. We would take those, and if there's room to do it, all right, and it's normally outside window, we would take those things off, and then we put those long bar windows, those picture frame windows right above and right below the header, and that just lets in all the light, and it's right above the shower, so it doesn't get wet at all, really. And
as long as you have an exhaust fan, you're good to go with that.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, just cool stuff like that. But these are not very costly things to do.
Levered handles instead of the standard knob, real popular right now. Just like I said, I mean, just dressing up the hardware and finish just a little bit. On a whole house, you might spend an extra $1,000 on upgrading your hardware, but it can go so far right now. It really does pop. It can also, what we found, it can make the difference in your bathroom when you're taking those before and afters, where it's just hey, it's remodeled, to wow. I mean, it's like HGTV. It's not, and to be straight, because it really does dress it up.
It does, and it's the same cabinet. It's just no longer stained, wood pine. It's actually, it's white or whatever color it is now, and you put that stuff on there. It looks good. Now, I mean, from what do you call it? Not mocha, but what's the other, like an ebony color or something like that in the guest bathroom, and then you put that stuff on there. It just really makes it pop. So stuff like this, guys, this is what we're talking about. These are things that make it pop in all types of price ranges, and you could do that, and it really stands out.
And by the way, I mean, there's instead of doing the old style laminate, or even instead of doing the engineered glue down, folks are using vinyl plank, luxury vinyl plank, to really, really good degree. It's the click-in style vinyl, very durable. There are varying styles and price point, but there are so many options there right now that you can get the colors that you need to get the contrast that you want, so that you can really help it pop. And folks are not shying away from luxury vinyl anymore. People are getting the name. It used to be, oh, that's cheaper. It's not anymore. Nobody thinks that anymore. In fact, they're thinking more durable now for when they're moving their furniture. And
now
the waterproof reality.
The way we call it, so rigid core is kind of like the way that you kind of go about saying, oh, well, it's rigid core, it's a little bit more durable and stuff.
Yeah.
As far as the colors you're doing for flooring, so people can know, because I was looking at one earlier today. Actually, someone was showing me their flip, and they were sharing. They're like, "Wow, this one I tested it out. I went a little darker on the flooring than what I normally go through." Dark flooring used to be in the whole way. Is it still good on most of the ones you're doing, where you're talking about dark wood, vinyl plank type stuff?
We're not doing dark much at all anymore on the flooring, unless we're really trying to. Like in a bathroom, doing like a dark tile that contrasts maybe with some white subways with darker grout or something, just to, like I said, with the contrast, and maybe some hexagons in that big niche that I mentioned.
Right.
But we're not doing a lot of dark. People can do it. It's not like it looks bad, but a lot of blondes are actually going right now with a little gray in it. Light gray, still very popular. Because you can contrast the light gray really well. Right. Light gray would look click in. But yes, no question, there are ebbs and flows with some of this stuff. So if you go a little darker on the flooring and then you stay lighter with your other decor, that's another form of contrasting. Right. It's the same idea. And it can look really good, especially if you go the ash style, a little bit darker on the wood, where it looks more weathered, but it's not just like a dark brown. I think that's real valuable. I also think, depending on the price point of the home, if it's a little bit more traditional style, you can still do the real warm wood look, and it could be great. It's not that we never do that. It's just that right now there's an interesting phenomenon with homes, and some of the style being a little bit more modern, and just like you said, making a couple areas that pop. People really are appreciating it.
What do you think about as far as whenever it comes to negotiating? Let's kind of go back to that. We were talking about a little bit, but I wanted to make sure we touched on these other things before we went there. So in the negotiating process of basically on the selling side of the property, because buying these properties, guys, and doing the flipping and doing all that stuff, that's really a whole nother issue, right? That we could go over and a whole nother topic. And I'd love to talk. If you have any questions, guys, just message me on Messenger. This is mainly on Facebook right now. Or if you have anything, you get a hold of me, get a hold of contact with our assistant. We'll be able to help you out. Get a hold of Elijah if you're looking at flipping some houses and you need to do them. On the negotiating on the back end side, and what I like about Fast Track is they actually help people go through that process also. Like they're calling you and going, hey, look, this is what came up on the inspection report, right? So on that backside, one of the things that I do just in general is that I'm okay with not fixing every single thing on the list, because I know through just experience that you don't want to do that, because you're going to over flip the house. Totally. You're going to go over budget. And there's just some stuff that's negotiable. Like you said, the roofing, maybe the AC unit, maybe some of these other things that are out there. So if you can help out people a little bit on that part, when you're seeing these inspection reports come back, you do the full flip and you're like, man, this house is completely done. I can't believe they picked this stuff out. What are you helping them go through?
Yeah, so still a lot of our our customers get inspections done before they get the home. That's still happening quite a bit. And when that happens, let me kind of dispel any sort of thoughts like, I don't want to have that done because I've got to disclose it. The truth is, a new buyer is going to get one whether you want them to or not.
Right.
So even if you had to disclose it, they're probably not even going to receive it from you unless you're telling them, hey, this is what I did on the inspection report.
Right.
And the things I didn't do, and you're pointing it all out. But most of them aren't even going to trust that your inspector was going to do what their inspector is going to do. So getting it done is just for your benefit, to get the little nitpicky things that even when the client and I are walking, we're not spending 6 hours there like sometimes, well, okay, 3 hours like an inspector might do, but we are, and what we're focusing on is what needs to get done, not always just the things that are out of code or,
Right.
our stuff's typically more. So what I'll say is that if you have that done and you spend that money, I think it can go really far, especially now when you're getting multiple offers. You can use that to your advantage now. It's like, hey, we did do this stuff that was on the inspection report. I'm going to show you so that you're less likely now to back out of it. And now I don't have to worry about who I'm buying from, or will you look at it? So we're big on getting inspection reports done up front. But if you don't, or if you have another inspection that comes back, I think it's true. You just have to decide, what are the things you're willing to work on.
Right.
Do you want to give them money? Do you want to fix it yourself? Just kind of having a good realtor team on your side to help you with that is really key, because they're able to kind of pulse the other realtor, find out where people are really think is important. There's been times when someone said, I want screens on the windows, but I don't necessarily want anything else. It's okay. Well, I wouldn't have even thought that,
Right.
I normally wouldn't have even done screens. I would have said, no, I'm not doing screens. Right.
Right.
But most people, they want to know that their house is safe. So I would say, here's the keys. Make sure that your electric stuff is done. Even to the point of, if your electric box is not labeled, get that done. All right. If it's double lugged, get that fixed. That's just more important. As an investor, maybe you know better, but the common buyer is going to want their house safe. Another thing would be anything with plumbing. So we actually are big proponents of changing out all your shutoff valves, pretty much no matter what that you're doing, so that everything is fine for the inspector, and everyone knows that it's new. Even if we're keeping a faucet at a house, I suggest changing out the shutoff valves for it, so that everybody is able to see that. Another thing is the water heater, making sure that it's up to code. Even if it's an older water heater, if it's got current up to code, people don't freak out as much.
Right.
Inspectors tend to write an entire page on the water heater if you don't have it up to code.
Right.
And then they really highlight the age of it when it's not up to code too.
Right.
It's like it as though it has to be replaced.
Right.
I would also say making sure that anything on the exterior that's rotted is taken care of. That's a big deal with a lot of lenders, especially.
And when he's talking about lenders, y'all, he's talking about the end buyers lenders.
End buyer lender, yeah.
The end buyers lender.
The FHA loans, VA loans, they're really big on rotten siding, stuff like that. So you don't have to change all the siding, but let's go ahead and just change out the stuff that's obviously rotten. Even if you're not doing a paint job, let's just touch up those areas, right? That's a big, because that's not as easy to just come back. The crew, it costs a little more if they have to come back for those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So let's go ahead and take care of that right away. All right. Another thing, just a tidbit. When you're an investor rehabbing homes, not doing new builds, but rehabbing, you are making a decision more on what you're keeping than what you're doing. Because the first thing you're doing is you're deciding, what can I keep on this house? All right. That's what makes it a rehab and not a new build. Right. Is what you're keeping. And so I think it's always wise to see what you can keep on the house. That's where sometimes you're going to get into the grandfathered issue of an inspector coming in saying, these purlin struts, they're supposed to be the same size or bigger than the rafters, right? So that's when you need to know your realtor and how they're going to react to those kinds of things. because if they're going to lay over and say, oh yeah, it's a big deal, when really it's grandfathered, the house is standing, you don't need to maybe change all of that
Right.
framing, right? So just being able to push back. Also, and here's a key, if you're doing a major rehab, get it permitted.
Yep.
So then you have the ability to say to that end buyer, inspector, hey, the city who has the code enforcement authority passed this house. What code enforcement authority does your inspector have?
Right.
Well, they don't. They're not any lesser for this, but they don't have code enforcement authority. So you're able to say, okay, great. Well, they had to point that out, but that doesn't mean that it's not grandfathered right now. Right. And I think those are keys to be able to stand by, that it was passed, we're able to move on. Fast track, we know what the codes are, but we also know that you're not going to do everything on every single house.
Right.
So you're going to need to expect, like you said, Gabe, you're going to need to expect that something's going to come up on an inspection report.
Right. Right. And you were mentioning, you mentioned about right before you said the code inspector, you were going over, what was it that you mentioned? It was just right there. I can't remember what you were saying.
About the purlin struts?
The purlin struts right before the purlin struts. Oh, like the grandfathering things in.
Yes, yeah.
So, guys, there's a key thing. Oh, that's what you're saying. You're saying about, you're really making decisions on what you want to keep. Right. And that's a big deal, because what ends up happening is we go through and we're like, well, man, can we keep these cabinets? Or, well, can we keep this? And can we keep this other stuff? And once you make those decisions, it really just paves the way for the rest of what you're going to do. You got the super low profile floor baseboards, right? And you're going to keep those throughout the whole house. What are you going to do? What kind of flooring are you going to put down? You can put back the, carpet back flooring into the bedrooms. Like, what are you going to do? Like, all that type of stuff is like, you really want to keep this stuff? Those are all just decisions, and then it helps you make once you do that, there's a trickle effect of the other things that it does,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So just let you know, okay, you're going to do you're going to upgrade your baseboards to new baseboards, but you're going to keep the same old door frames. Okay. Like, it's just stuff like that. And a lot of people don't know the millwork costs quite a bit of money. And I actually don't know right now at this very moment, what is the dollar amount difference right now from the last, I haven't really done a whole thing in probably 3 months. How much has really changed in 3 months just from manufacturing and just the limited amount of supply that's out there?
Yeah, well, some stuff just takes a little longer to get in, but for the most part, and it has risen in cost just a little bit. But the lumber, the straight lumber, is more of an increase than some of the doors and trim.
Right.
That's still, a lot of that is MDF based, so it's not as big of a difference.
And so to go on that, that's the one thing that everyone's going to ask, is like saying, okay, what about material cost? Material cost is going up, so things are going up. But really, it comes down to lumber, right? Any type of wood product that's out there, right? But there's still fixtures on the shelf. There's still lighting fixtures on the shelf. There's still all those things are available.
Yeah, I mean, people have had to get creative. Supply chains have had to get creative, because it's, if it wasn't the tariffs that were going on with China, so Chinese products had some delays, and they also had some increase. If it wasn't that, then it was supply, for what was going on just in general when
fires.
When property or production was shut down during COVID from time to time. So then there was some supply issues. And then there was, after that, when that started ramping back up, now there's, because of this phenomenon of the lumber, now there's some of that. So it's just, there's always going to be things like that in the industry that we got to look out for. But I think the main thing is just, let's simplify it and let's say, what can we keep? What do we need to do? What's the budget going to end up at? Can I make money? I got into it. Can I still make money? I think it's good for folks to consider, if they are buying in at a wholesale, hard earnest money, to ask, okay, so it's $3,000 more than I thought, but if I get out of this deal, I lose my $3,000. Am I willing to continue with this market, knowing that I might get over asking? There's certain things that people just have to know themselves. Like, we get back to the beginning of what we talked about. What's your threshold? Are you gonna stay in there and move through on some of these deals, just knowing, that you're still making money, but maybe not as much as you were hoping if something did go up more than you thought.
What is your, compared to maybe last summer, are you doing more rental properties? Like, are you doing more fix and flips right now, or is it both, or everything has increased? Like, what is your ratio going from last summer to this summer that you could go, okay, I'm definitely seeing a lot more buy and holds, or I'm definitely seeing a lot more flips?
I'm seeing more flips, more big, high amount of work being done, flips. I mean, right now, because of the pipe break issue, we're seeing a lot of rentals come back around where tenants, the pipes broke, right?
Right.
See,
and he's talking about the freeze for those who aren't in this area.
Yeah, the freeze.
The big freeze.
The big freeze. See, those are mostly going to be rentals.
Right.
Because people didn't sell their house because of the freeze. They got the repairs done and they stayed in their house. Most of them didn't sell. Like a flood, it's different than a flood, right? There's incentive to potentially move from your home if it got flooded, but if it's just because of a freeze, I still love my home. I'm just going to get back to right. So people stayed. So investors aren't necessarily picking up a lot of homes that had freeze damage on the pipes. But the people we're working with are typically investors who had tenants that were in there, and so those are the rental rehabs I'm mostly doing right now, are from pipe breaks. But I'm not doing
so much on new ones.
Not doing a ton of new rental rehabs. Most of the people that are parking their money in rentals right now are doing so. I have to plug my iPad back in, so the mic's going to change just a bit. So I'll try to speak up. But yes, they're doing sometimes a little bit more ready. Like those homes are a little bit more ready, and they're buying. The one who bought my house over asking I was talking about is an investor who's parking money.
Wow.
Interesting phenomenon. Yeah,
for sure. So we're definitely seeing that. I mean, I've noticed that in some other areas also, and just some of the properties we're selling it. And, you have the local, couple that are trying to buy their first house, stuff like that. They're bothered over it because, there's people have cash that's coming in. They're going to park their money somewhere. They got a 3.5%, 4% interest loan, this investor, and they're going to come in and they're going to just put their money. They're going to put 50 grand down on a property, and they're just like, okay, cool. And I got this awesome loan, and I'm going to hold on to this property, And so
low interest rates.
It's way different than what I would say even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where everyone would be looking at, hey, what's the ratio? What's the 1% ratio? Now they're getting less than 1% ratio. They just need to have somewhere to put their money. Then it comes up to the fact of, well, I'm willing to put 20% down on a property. I'm willing to put 25% down. And so the buyer has definitely changed our market for sure. Not just the end buyer, homestead type of buyer, right? There's this whole nother person, avatar, you call it, that's coming in and going, you know what? I want to buy. I mean, these are homes that I'm thinking, these are flip houses. These aren't even make ready. You're getting it ready for somebody to be a landlord. These are like flip houses, good neighborhoods, and someone's coming in and buying them. It's like you said, the one that you have, some of the ones that we have, I'm like, whoa, because you see the contracts come through, right? And I'm just kind of surprised on some of the stuff that's come through. But that's our market now, guys. So if they're gonna go through, I want to make sure I perform on the stuff we're talking about. Flipping in 2021 looks like. This is the way I look at it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Elijah, how you go into it. And that's why I like Elijah, because when he goes into a property, he helps you understand the vision if you have only done a few flips, right? For us, the vision is, who's the buyer for the property? Is it a good deal? Yes. That's what I'm doing. This is my job. And a lot of people know. I mean, even the people that we sell the properties to, our job is to sell at a profit, right? That's the job, right? And so you acquire it and now you get a good deal, but you got to really be looking at is who's that end buyer of this property. And guys, this is really key and really important. We have just made a decision, just talking on this, of the end buyer has now changed from, husband and wife or a single person, coming in, want to buy and develop a new family. And that's what they're looking at doing. And that's your end buyer to, they just need somewhere to park money. This is wild if you really look at it. But for forever, like we've always looked at the end strategy as who's the person who would buy the property like this, and we tailor it to it. Like we have a two bedroom, two bath. We know a person that's going to buy a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath. We know the people that would buy a typical. So we don't go and put stuff in it that would be something for
Absolutely right.
a small family that's growing up. Like that's we can already start looking at. Okay, this is the same thing as when you look at doing a townhome. You're looking at doing townhomes a little differently than whenever you do a standalone home, right? And so, yeah, it does matter in per area that you're in. This is why I'm saying this is like, I get jazzed up over this, Elijah, because I'm just like, if we could just grab the idea of every house has a buyer, right? And you got to know who are you shooting for in this, right? And we used to, like you said, you used to do last year and years before is like, let's just go for the masses. Let's totally go for the masses. Now we know there's plenty of masses. There's plenty of that going on. Now let's bring that in a little bit, because almost you become too bland, right?
Well, right. I mean, you will get a buyer because it's ready to move in. But will you get the energy?
Right.
And now folks are excited right now to get that house that's a little bit nicer than the home they're living in now. They're moving up. I've got somebody who said, I sold, I had cash in this house. I sold it over asking. It allowed me to buy the house I really wanted. I could even pay over asking for it.
Right.
And then now with the money that I made on this home, I'm able to, if I want you to put this down, my payment's going to be about the same when it's all said and done, because my interest rate's going to be better now than it was before. Anyway, all this stuff that's being talked about, it's a very intriguing market. Now, yes, granted, Becky brought it up, we haven't seen some of the foreclosures hit yet exactly. We haven't seen some of the deferments hit exactly yet. Don't know all of what that's going to do personally, but I do know that in this current phase that we're in, there are buyers from all angles like you're talking about. And when you can hit the keys that people are looking for, because they're looking for a home to get out of where they are.
Right.
And if they're thinking about refinancing their home right now and they've got that going, just think about this for a second. Refinancing their home, knowing that the market is quick to sell, it's easy for them to transition from a refinance of their house to purchasing a new home and selling theirs. It's an easier transition now than it ever has been before, because things are selling quicker. I've never heard so many of my clients telling me that they've sold within a day. I haven't had it so many times. We've had it as like a highlight that people say, we sell so much quicker. We really appreciate it. Fast track may be a little bit more expensive, but we really appreciate it because we sell these homes faster and they get done faster. We've heard that a lot. But I mean, I'm talking like people who said like hours, like it's been on the market just like 3 hours. We got over asking, we took it. It's something crazy in this market right now. But knowing that, it does help you to know that you're helping someone get excited about your house too.
Right.
Don't do everything, but do a few key things that really can help set it apart. Not that much more money. And I believe that you'll get that money back right now.
That's good. So this is an Elijah Randall phrase here. I had it down. I put it in the comments. Is don't compete with other houses. Try to do something a little different than the other comps. So
I stole that, by the way.
You stole that. I like it though. It's really good. Now it's yours.
Okay, yeah. Twice? What, you get quoted twice? It's yours.
That's right. Now it's yours. Guys, this is awesome. If you have any more information or if you have any questions and need more information from Elijah, just feel free to contact him. He's on here. We'll post this. This is going to go live, or it's live right now. It'll go on our group chat.
fasttrackremodeling.com.
There you go. fasttrackremodeling.com. And like I said, these guys know exactly what they're talking about. They'll be able to help you through. Now you know what's happening in 2021 as far as the marketplace goes. Yes, if you're looking at buying houses, it's going to be tough. It's going to be competitive for you to buy and flip houses. Elijah's probably hearing it from every person that they run across.
Analyze more deals.
Yeah.
Put in offers.
You just got to look at more deals. I know people that have different strategies for picking up properties, but the reality is you probably are on different chats right now, and there's properties and there's deals in there. You just might need to negotiate them. Just don't take them at face value. It might be they could come off that price a little bit and they need to move it. So do it that way. If you want to use social media, there's definitely a lot of groups
Yeah,
out there. You can
absolutely.
find
Oh,
your
and get with people like Cal, who, I mean, Cal, he said he could close quick. If you have the ability to have a proof of funds and you can close quick, you might be able to negotiate a little better if you've been proven to be able to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the deal is like negotiate better if you have the cash and the means to do it quickly, because that's really what matters, especially the wholesalers that you're going to follow through. Um, I want to go real quick, let you guys know. You guys see that?
Yep.
All right, cool. Guys, this is our information, so we want to help you grow. We have just now before this call at 6 o'clock, where I was doing comps for another investor and helping them go through the purchase of a property. It's an area that actually I flipped the neighborhood. I flipped in that neighborhood, so I knew it really well, and I just happened to walk through and say, "Hey, I know this neighborhood. If you want something like that, if you just need some more information about investing and you want to flip more, you want to do more rentals, if you have money to put to work, we'd be happy to work with you on some other projects that we're working on. We can help you do those things. All right. So it's 832-263-2613. We joint venture if you need to help negotiate with the seller. We have done all of those things for other investors, for other realtors, for sure. And we're just looking for houses, mobile homes, land, RV parks, RVs, all those type of things. I was with the mastermind this afternoon and they're asking me what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, I've kind of been messing with some RV stuff. And they're like, what? That's so different. And I'm like, yeah, it's what it's what I've been getting into and starting to do more of. So we're looking for those things also. So if you're an investor, I'd be happy to take a look at your properties. If you're a wholesaler, if you're just looking at selling a property, be happy to do those things. So yeah, guys, that's about it for us. Elijah, do you have anything to send off for everybody, that maybe some words of caution or words of encouragement or anything like that for coming into this cool summer season's here, man? It's coming.
Well, I just think that the energy concept, right? I mean, if you're around people in this industry that are doing investing, there's high energy. There's been Zoom calls like this. Get plugged in, because you'll see, even though there's thousands of investors in the greater Houston area, you'll see that there's also a tight knit group of people who are doing the business, who are really going after it. If you get plugged in with those folks, you stay high energy. You get more deals that come across your desk. You get to analyze. You get to bring them to folks like Gabe, get real connected, feel more comfortable about an industry you might not know everything about, and you don't have to. So get out there, analyze those deals. That's the true work of an investor. Just comfortable enough to where you pull the trigger, and God bless.
Yeah, guys. All right, man. Have a good night and go vertical. We'll see you guys later. See ya.